This is the proper tool to tune a kalimba, but what if you don't have one? I'm going to tell you how you can tune your kalimba without ruining it if you're very careful using alternate tools. And you might see these and think, oh my gosh, what is he going to do to that kalimba? And I'm with you. I'm very nervous to film this video. I like my kalimba, I don't want to ruin it, but there's some alternate tools that you can use safely, somewhat at least. I should note that the proper way to tune a kalimba is to use a tuning hammer, but you can use alternate tools. So let's jump into how we can do that. First though, this channel is all about music and instruments and learning how to take care of them, learning how to play them, and I would love to share with you this journey. Make sure and subscribe to this channel. Oh man, you guys, this is gonna be so funny. It's gonna be a disaster, but we're gonna give it a shot. So the reason why we're here, or you might be here, is that you're missing this special tool. It is just a very small hammer. And the way you tune normally is that you just tap very gently and subtly until it's back in tune. But if you somehow lost this hammer, what are you to do? Well, thankfully, there are things you can do, and you can even do it in a way that should be fairly safe to the instrument. I cannot be held responsible for any damage you make to your instrument. I should note that. This is just me trying to be helpful to you if you've lost this hammer and you still want to tune your instrument. So I'm going to tune this C. I already made this like out of tune, and if you remember, the way this tuning app works is it gives you the note that it hears, and it centers it if the note is in tune. And since it's below the line, we know that the pitch is too low. And so what do we need to do to make the pitch higher is actually move this tine up, because this bar right here is what is cutting off the sound. And so if we make the tine shorter, we make the pitch higher. So remember, the longer the tine, the lower the pitch. The shorter the tine, the higher the pitch. So we need to, repeat this through another method of tapping this upward so that we can get a higher pitch. Now, this is a 1-pound hammer, and it is not made for tuning kalimbas. And so I would never suggest that you use a hammer just like this to try and tap it into shape. But what you can do, and this is where this is gonna get hilarious, is that we are going to use this tiny little screwdriver, and I'm going to brace my 2 fingers against the kalimba so to make it stay in place. And then I'm going to tap the end of the screwdriver with the hammer, and I'll try and get this in a way so that you can see it, but it might take me a bit. So let's hear what it sounds like now. It's still really too low. I'm going to get the hammer here. This is just going to be funny. Notice I'm getting it ski-wampus. I'm just going to keep it on the course by adjusting it slightly. That actually raised it quite a bit. It raised it way too far, so I got to bring it back down. So that's the problem with this method, is that it's not very subtle, and so I'm going to carefully tap that. It's actually a lot easier to do it on the end like that. So I've still got a C sharp, I got a ways to go. I'm trying to get it to C, by the way. I just went a little bit too far. Let's try it this way, that was a lot easier. And there you have it, folks. This is how you tune it with a tiny screwdriver that's got a soft plastic edge, or a softer plastic edge, and using a 1-pound hammer. Not what these are made for, but it works. This, I found, was the best way to tune the kalimba. I was able to control how hard I was able to hit the kalimba without damaging it. And if I was to recommend any way, if you didn't have the special tuning hammer, this is the way I would recommend to do it. Another option that I absolutely hate, but I'm going to show you, using a pair of pliers. So I'm going to get this out of tune again. All right, so this should be too low. Sure enough, it's too low. I brought this cloth out because I don't want to use the pliers directly on the metal tines and scratch the finish. So, and I've seen people who've done that, and what it does is it scratches the finish and makes your Kalimba prone to rusting and doesn't look pretty. And so, I mean, I would just not recommend doing this in general, but you know, if you're like me, sometimes you're caught in a rock in a hard place and you just need to get something done. So I find it's easiest to get the pliers open wide like this and then push in between the pliers so you can kind of see the shape of the tool. And then we're going to get that and grab this tine. So now that we have a firm grip and we've got some cover, we can, you know, wiggle it back and forth and push forward very gently, or as gently as I can do it without hurting anything. Okay, let's get that back into alignment. How are we doing? We're still flat, so let's see if we can keep going. Man, I'm doing this just for you guys. I generally wouldn't recommend doing this, but it is a method that works and can be effective. Oop, that was probably too far. And it's out of alignment again, so let's get that out. There we go. That's too sharp now. All right. So now that it's too sharp, I need a pull. I'm going to go out at the other end and just push. It seems to be easier. It's probably too much. Sure enough. Back and forth we go. We're going to get this just barely out of tune. So I'm going to push again because it's too low. And now it's barely out of tune the other way. This is how my golf game looks. I'm going to call that close enough. So as you can see, it's really hard to use the plier method accurately. Another option, if you don't want to use pliers, which I didn't really enjoy using pliers very much, is to use vice grips. And using the same method, you can use that to pinch the tines without crunching the actual metal. And the one advantage to using vice grips is that you can loosen it. I mean, you can tighten it exactly so it's just holding on to the tines directly. It's a little bit more dangerous. You have, you know, more of a risk of damaging things, but if you need a better grip, that is one option. If you've never used vice grips before, it's a really cool mechanism. It has a spring, and what it does is it is able to clamp down on something. So right now this is the adjustment's too narrow to clamp down on nothing at all. So what you do is you loosen the screw back here, loosen the screw, and then you are, once you close it, so now it's too wide, so I'm going to get it to right about here, tighten it a little bit more, and now if I squeeze hard enough, it's going to snap into place and it'll stay shut. That's why they call it vice grips. It puts things in a vice. And so then this button releases it at the bottom. You just push it, and it's kind of tricky to get used to. So I'm going to just intentionally lower the tines, and if you wiggle it back and forth, it's a little bit easier. And the cloth is doing a great job. You release the vice grips like that. You want to get it to the point where it squeezes tightly onto the tines without you having to hold on to the pliers. Let's see how that did. It definitely lowered it, and it's now too low to play. So now we're challenged. Let's try and get this back again. So I'm going to put the vice grips back, and I'm going to pinch the lowest tine again, and it's too loose. I need to tighten this up a bit again. So when I close it, it'll clamp down on the tine. All right, so you can see that. Still too loose. It's too tight. I'm gonna loosen the screw back here until I can clamp it down onto the tine. And I'm gonna push and wiggle it back and forth so I can just push that up. This should go a little bit faster now that I've gotten the right thickness. So I'm pushing the release button on the bottom here. Try this again. Get it in alignment. All right, it's a little bit flat. It's looking good. I'm gonna pinch it again with the cloth. And then I'm gonna push it forward just a little bit. Okay, that should be enough. I'm gonna release. Yay, it worked. So, the vice grips were much easier to use than the pliers. The pliers really were terrible, but they are both options. The best option of them all, if you don't have the original hammer that comes with the instrument, is to use an actual 1 pound hammer, or just like a normal hammer, and a tiny little screwdriver with a plastic edge so that you can just hammer it directly against the tine like that, really lightly. You want to grip the hammer right at the head so you have full control of how hard you're hitting it. So now you've got your kalimba tuned up and you didn't have to use the tuning hammer, but you don't know how to play it. Well, I go over how to play the kalimba. I would make sure and check out this video. I go over all the steps on how to play the kalimba, the basic techniques, and how to read the music so you can play any song you want. Make sure and check out that video. Thanks for watching.